After 10 months of riding and covering over 10,500 miles, there's 5 things that I wish I knew before I bought this. And don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love this bike, and these aren't even deal breakers, but if you're considering the MT-03 as your first bike, then you need to know the reality of it, so let's get into it.
Right, so first up on this list is the service intervals. Now, you've heard me say this about 1,000 times, but the services on this is every 3,000 miles. Now, if you compare that to the likes of the Kawasaki Ninja, the 250, 400, even the 500, they're at 7,500. And to be honest, most modern bikes are at 7,500. Before I bought this bike, this wasn't something that I budgeted for because I literally had no idea that they were every 3,000 miles. Now, obviously it's going to be cheaper if you do your services yourself, which is what I do. So obviously, as you know, I've done 10,000 miles on this bike. So when you rack up mileage that fast, the services are going to feel quite frequent. So you have to ask yourself, if you're using this as a daily commuter, you know, weekend touring, are you going to be willing to service this regularly to keep it running? Now, next on the list, and I've also mentioned this about 1,000 times, is the miles per gallon and the fuel range on this. This has a 14-litre tank. You'd be thinking, oh, that's great, until you realise that you only really get to use about 12.5 litres of that. And really, a full tank is only getting me about 150 miles. So, is this a deal breaker? Again, no. But what you are going to have to do is ask yourself, what are you going to be using this bike for? If it's things like long distance touring, then you are going to have to factor in more trips to the petrol station. And you're obviously going to have to plan your route around petrol stations to obviously include them so you don't get caught out. Now, yes, obviously, you will get more miles per gallon if you ride this like a grandad. I'm talking 4,000 RPM the whole time. Yes, you may get 75 miles per gallon, but that just defeats the purpose of these bikes. They are small bikes, they are meant to be ragged around, they're meant to be used for fun. You can use this to its full potential, so obviously, you know, you're going to be pinning the throttle back, you're going to be going through all the rev ranges, you're going to be bouncing off the limiter, so of course it's not going to be the most economical to ride, but I think that's what you sign up for when you get one of these small displacement bikes. Right, now the next thing, this might just be a me problem because I've never heard anyone else say this. The foot pegs, they're completely rock hard, and I mean solid. And after, say, about an hour of riding this, the bottoms of your feet do start to ache.
So, as you can see, I didn't even realise they've even got spikes on them, no wonder they're uncomfortable. And, you know, they're quite solid. So, long distances on these, you're going to start to feel that at the soles of your feet. As I said, the bike itself, this riding position is perfect. It's nothing to do with the riding position. It's literally just these rock hard foot pegs.
Now obviously this is quite a simple fix. You can get aftermarket foot pegs, or even easier, you can just get rubber foot peg sleeves. So obviously that's not a deal breaker, but as I said before, if you are using this bike for things like long distance touring, commuting, you are going to want to maximise comfortability because you'll be stopping more frequently if you are uncomfortable, and that's not what we want. Right, now the next thing, and I have heard a few people say this, obviously the MT-03 is designed for the shorter rider. Like, I'm 5'6", it was literally made for me, but the tail end of this bike is pretty high and you do struggle to get your leg over. So like you'll see here now, so yeah, I've got a tail bag, but when I'm trying to get my leg over here, like, you see, it's like quite a high kick, otherwise you're gonna scrape the seat. So you're not going to swing your leg over without catching the pillion seat. Like, every single time I have to swing my leg quite high just to get it over the back of this. Now again, this isn't a deal breaker because it's something that you'll get used to. Yeah, it can get a bit annoying. I think what Yamaha were aiming with was to make an aggressive looking bike, and they've succeeded. You know, the bike looks amazing, but with that higher tail, it does cause a bit of an inconvenience when you're shorter like me and you have to swing your leg quite high because, you know, we don't have long legs when we're short, so that's a bit of an issue. Right, now the last thing on this list, and I never actually realised this was sort of like a problem until I've been riding this for a few months, and that is the throttle tube. So it's quite short.
Right, so this is future me with the voiceover because I was making absolutely no sense. A short throttle tube, what that means is, to get full throttle, you're basically pinning your wrist back as far as it'll go. So, like when you're accelerating hard, like merging onto dual carriageway, overtaking, things like that, you're pretty much maxing out that full twist. It's not that the bike lacks power, because it doesn't. The short throttle tube just means you're working harder to access that power. Now, you think if you're cruising on the motorway, you're going to be pinned back like this. An hour or so, that's going to become very uncomfortable. So, for example, when I was touring in Scotland, the dual carriageways there, obviously being 70 miles an hour, for 7 days, this became quite uncomfortable. There's a fix for this, and that's an R6 throttle tube. A lot of people say that they work, so again, not a deal breaker, but if this is something that bothers you, then you can obviously fix that. But if you test ride one, pay attention to this, see if it bothers you, and it may be something to consider. So there you have it, 5 things that I genuinely wish I knew before I bought the MT-03. But here's what I want to emphasise, none of these are deal breakers. I still love riding this bike, and I still recommend it to new riders, because the MT-03 does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it does it exceptionally well. But the key is to have realistic expectations. The MT-03, it's not an MT-07, you know, it's a 321cc parallel twin bike, and it costs under 5k brand new, and for the older models you're looking at about 3.5k, which I think is an absolute bargain. So if you are a new rider and you are considering the MT-03, just ask yourself these 3 questions. Are you willing to regularly service this? Will your regular rides be less than 150 miles? And can you put up with those hard foot pegs? But as I said, there's a fix for those anyway. If the answer is yes, then honestly just go for it. The MT-03 is an amazing bike for what it is. So with all that being said, would I still buy the MT-03 if I knew all those things? And the answer is yes. It's a great bike for building confidence, and it's great fun on UK roads. That is something that's hard to beat. Right, so that's it from me. If you're an MT-03 owner, what's something that you wish you knew before buying? Drop it in the comments and let's help the next wave of new riders. If this was helpful, then please smash the like button. And if you've made it this far, you might as well subscribe. And in the next video, I'll be covering the truth about riding a naked bike through UK winter. So I'll see you there.